Welcome to the next episode of the Dark Web Deacon. So let's check our secure connections, adjust our hoodies, and as always, be sure to like, comment, and subscribe. In a world filled with ridiculous Hollywood tropes, the hacker is one of the most annoying, especially when it comes to scenes of people cracking passwords. If you've ever watched TV and movies, you most likely saw someone in a dark room trying to guess someone else's password based on a few facts like their kid's name or a favorite sports team. In reality, hackers aren't guessing passwords for one person. Aside from being completely inefficient, most accounts do get locked after attempting the wrong password after about 3 attempts or so. Hackers use millions of account credentials from data breaches and feed that data into automated tools to try and hack thousands of accounts at once. The breach files typically contain each line in the database associated with a user, for example, their email, username, and password. Sometimes the password is in clear text and ready for use, but other times the password may be hashed. So hackers may attempt to try to decipher the hashed data so that it can be used. So what is a hashed password? A hash is a representation of the password created after running it through a hashing algorithm. There are a variety of these algorithms that are out there, including SHA-256, MD5, and bcrypt, and they vary in different levels of complexity. When the password 123456 is hashed, it is stored as E10ADC, etc. Basically, this random set of numbers and letters. Every unique password has a unique hash, but each algorithm converts each password to the same hash, assuming it's not salted, and we'll get to that in a little bit. In other words, 123456 will always be hashed as E10ADC, etc. Is a hashed password the same as an encrypted password? This is a very common question. Simple answer is no, they are not the same. Sometimes hashing gets explained as encryption, but encryption works in two directions, both with an encryption and a decryption methodology and process. If you know the cipher key for something that is encrypted, you can reverse it to decrypt the data. Hashes only work in one direction. You can't take the hash E10, ADC, etc. and reverse the code to get back to 123456. For simplicity's sake, let's just leave the difference between hashing and encryption as that. So, cracking passwords is about trying to figure out how to decipher what a hash password really is. Password cracking does this by comparing two hashes to find matches. You generate hashes using known plaintext words to see if the hash ever matches the hash that you're trying to crack. When the hashes match, you have cracked the password. In the early days, crackers relied on rainbow tables, which are a list of hashes and associated plaintext passwords. If they knew a hash and wanted to see the associated password, they simply compared the known hashes in the rainbow table with the hashes in the database to find matches. One tactic companies use to deter rainbow tables is to add additional characters, called a salt, to the beginning or the end of the password before it gets hashed. The salt is typically unique to each user, so if two people on a specific website have the same passwords, their salts would be different, resulting in different hashes. In addition to salts, there are peppers, which are random bits of data added to the password before it gets hashed. Unlike salts, peppers are not stored in the database with the hash. They are hard-coded into the website source code, and they're not user-generated. Even with salts and peppers, passwords can be cracked. Password cracker success often comes down to timing and computing power. In the early days, password crackers used CPUs to mathematically generate possible hashes, or they'd match known hashes to the passwords in the rainbow table. Today, crackers use GPUs, which are often associated with gamers and cryptocurrency miners, because while they can't do complicated math, they can run simple calculations on a large scale. So how does a CPU compare to a GPU when it comes to password cracking? Well, a CPU can do complex calculations very fast, but is limited by cores and threads. A GPU has thousands of less complex cores or mini processors that can generate a hash very quickly. Where a CPU could guess maybe 20,000 combinations per second, a GPU can guess roughly 6 million combinations per second. In a brute force attack, the cracker would use the GPU to run all the combinations of letters and numbers and characters until it figures out the right one. Even with a salt or pepper making it more difficult, a GPU with enough time will in theory be able to eventually crack the password, especially if the salt and or pepper is partially known or is a word combination that's very common. If you want tips on how to make a hard to crack and easy to remember password, check out my previous video on the subject. While no password is uncrackable, you can make them as secure as possible by making them as long as possible.
Check out the Dark Web Deacon merch store. We have high-quality t-shirts, accessories, and signature hoodies, of course, and become a true Dark Web enthusiast and VIP. New videos are published every Monday and Thursday.